And today's broadcast is brought to you by Eclectic Horseman Magazine. Stay tuned for Eclectic Conversations hosted by Emily Kitching.
Well, thanks for joining me. I'm here today with Paul Garrison III to visit about his mulemanship skills and program, and I'm so excited to get to visit with you today, Paul.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here, Emily.
Awesome. Well, you and I have never had a chance to talk before, so tell me a little bit about, like, orient me to where you are in the world. Tell me what you're doing with mules.
Well, I'm physically located in South Central Texas. It's about an hour and a half west of San Antonio.
Okay.
Out in the beautiful Texas Hill Country.
Well, I was just going to say that looking at the photos, I was like, ooh, wherever that is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, we're very, very fortunate to be able to live here and make a living here. Been in the mule deal about 20 years. Started out just owning one, and then two, and then three, and then, you know how it goes.
Yep.
And somewhere along the line, I figured out, along with some friends, that I had a little bit of a gift, maybe, for being able to get along and communicate and get things out of the mule that most couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
And worked on that, improved it, started teaching, started giving clinics about 10 years ago. Started off doing public clinics. Of course, I had them all here, and it doesn't take, the mule world is not very large, Emily. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't take long to get everybody indoctrinated that's willing to drive to your place. So I had to change my MO a little bit, and started doing private clinics. Mm-hmm. Where it's more or less 1-on-1, 1-on-2, sometimes 1-on-3. Mm-hmm. And people primarily come here to get private instruction with sometimes just themselves. Sometimes they use my mules. Sometimes they don't even have a mule. They're interested, and these are the folks that are really exercising a lot of intelligence. There's about 20% of my clientele are folks that are just interested in learning about the mule before they go down the road to purchase. Mm-hmm. And that tends to be the right track to take.
Yeah, what a great idea.
Yeah, it really is, and good on them for doing it. But yeah, I have that. If somebody's having a problem with their mule, I'll check the mule out, and if the mule truly does have a problem, and I say it that way because most of the time it's not the mule, I'll work with the mule and get him straightened out. But most mule issues go right back to the owner, mm-hmm. as I'm sure you're aware.
Well, that's a common thing.
Yes, it is.
So I've never really spent any time around mules. My right. neighbor has donkeys, and so I've got a little bit of experience right. Being around donkeys. But for somebody who hasn't been around them, just tell me a little bit about the mule.
Well, because the genetic gumbo that makes up that mule is somewhere around 50% from the donkey. But the donkey, because of where he evolved on planet Earth, had to be a more thinking type animal. They had to figure it when they were confronted with an issue, say a predator. They couldn't just throw their head up and say, "Oh, there's a predator and he looks hungry," and go that way for a quarter of a mile and alleviate their problem. They physically couldn't do it, and and the terrain wouldn't allow it either, because donkey primarily evolved in the deserts and mountains of the world. So the donkey is a more thinking type animal, where a horse is primarily a reactionary animal. They react. So that is the biggest difference, and that's what makes them so dang good on trail and rough country and really, really, really sketchy stuff. They just handle it. They don't get excited. They don't flail. They don't get panicked. They just handle the situation.
And is that are most of the folks that are coming to your clinics and are spending time with mules, are they mostly riding outside and doing endeavors like that?
They're mostly trail riders. Yes. Yeah, for sure. So a few hunters, few people that want to pack and do that kind of stuff, but most of them are trail riders. Yeah.
And did you start out working with mules, or did you start with horses and transition?
I rode a horse a few times when I was a kid, but I didn't start with the mules till I was in my 40s.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And was it that the thinking that really resonated with you? Like,
I had a friend, kind of a mentor that was, he was 12 years older than me, grew up kind of being friends. He'd pick me up and take me coon hunting at night. We had a ranch out here, and he'd come out and hunt on the ranch, and he'd pick me up and take me with him. He was my little league baseball coach, all that kind of stuff. Well, he ended up having mules, and I ended up spending more time with him later in life as well, and kind of got indoctrinated into them that way. Camping and hunting with mules is very addicting.
Expound on that. What makes it addicting?
Well, it's just being out with hounds and good friends and a good mule to carry you and see you through the country and what have you. It's just hard to beat.
Yeah.
Hard to beat.
So let's visit a little bit about your students that are coming and riding with you. Is there can you make some generalizations about them as far as the types of people that might get along with mules better or be interested in mules?
There is a percentage of the horse owner population that for some reason gets the mule light bulb turned on in their head. And they've at an event, at a trail ride, at some kind of function, there's mules there, and they're observant enough to recognize the difference, and that difference appeals to them. So they end up getting a mule, and they start a relationship, and as with any relationship with an animal, human, whatever, things come up, issues arise, and they try to deal with those issues the same way they would with a horse, and it doesn't work. And they say, "Oh my God, what have I done?"
And then they call you up.
That segment right there is about probably 60% of the people that come to see me. About about 20 are folks that don't have a mule, just looking for education and experience, and about 20% are folks that had an experience with the mule in their past, and life separated them, and now they're wanting to get back and relive that experience again, and they're coming back for education and knowledge and what have you.
And what is when folks come to learn from you, what does what does success feel like for you as a teacher?
Well, leadership is a really, really big thing when it comes to dealing with the mule. It's a big thing with any equine, because all equine are prey animals, all equine are herd animals. So a leader is big with all of them. Mm-hmm. But the mule is more needy when it comes to leadership than the horse is. Mm-hmm. For the most part. You can't throw a blanket statement over any animal.
Yeah,
you know that. But for the majority of the mules and horses out there, that rings pretty true. So
expound on that a little bit. Tell me what you mean by needy. Like they require it of you.
They require more leadership. Now, mm-hmm. What is leadership? As far as that mule's concerned, a leader is another being that takes control of his feet 100% of the time. That's what, in the simplest of terms, that's all any mule is genuinely looking for, is another being that will take control. They're not mentally fulfilled, stable, until they feel like they've got a leader with them. Mm-hmm. It's in their makeup. It's in their DNA. That's the way they're wired. So you that's the biggest thing, the hardest thing to teach. Mm-hmm. I can demonstrate it. I can show somebody, excuse me, what it looks like. But there's, unfortunately, that you can't unscrew a hole in the top of the head and pour it in there.
Yeah.
You can't do it. But I have found the best way to start that process is through a kind of groundwork that we do with the mules called halter driving. Mm-hmm. And it's, words are important. Words have meanings, and those two certainly do. Halter driving is done with a rope halter and a 12-foot lead rope. Mm-hmm. It's a series of 3 different movements to the left and the same 3 movements back to the right. Mm-hmm. Of course, you work both sides of the animal, but it's all done in close proximity of the animal. There's nothing about it that represents lunging. Mm-hmm. Lunging will do absolutely nothing for you and a mule. But it's it's called halter driving, and the driving is important because almost all of that exercise is done from behind the drive line. Mm-hmm. And if your listeners don't know, the drive line is right behind the front leg where your front cinch would be. Mm-hmm. That is considered the drive line. If the human is in front of the drive line, the animal will either stop or turn. If the human is behind the drive line, the animal will go forward. All right. the reason that's important, and the reason we do it that way, is because where are we when we're in the saddle?
Behind the drive line.
Behind the drive line. That's exactly right. So in essence, when this halter driving is done correctly, it is riding them from the ground.
Nice. Yeah.
That's what you're doing. You're riding them from the ground. In addition to that, you are also, because step 2 of the halter driving involves the disengagement of the hind end.
Mm-hmm.
And the way you go about disengaging their hind end, you are teaching them the signal, the cues for the one-rein stop
mm-hmm.
from the ground first.
Mm-hmm. That's handy.
Well, that old one-rein stop is the only way you will ever shut down any equine when they have determined they need to leave that zip code.
Yeah.
That's the only way you'll stop them.
Yeah.
And what most people don't realize, we've all felt it, but we a lot of folks haven't put this together. And that is, when an animal decides to bolt or buck, they all have to do the same thing with their body. And that is, they have to bring their hind end up under themselves
mm-hmm.
for propulsion,
mm-hmm.
to push off against the ground. All right. When they bring their hind end up under themselves, we've all felt that little
yes, sir.
Butt, right?
Yeah.
We've all felt that little what was that? Well, it just so happens, if you will employ the one-rein stop, as soon as you feel that little rise in their back, you will shut everything down before it happens. But that takes some practice and so forth on the human and the animal's part.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that is the very best way to keep yourself safe
mm-hmm.
on an equine.
Yeah. Well, what you're saying sure sounds, sounds super familiar, and like things I've experienced myself. And are there ways in which, because you mentioned that the mule's mind is different, like, is it when it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's worse? Like, like when it goes wrong, does it go really?
There is nothing, and of course I'm saying this from a biased standpoint. There's nothing better than a good mule, and there's nothing worse than a bad one.
Yeah,
that is for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like they're harder to get over, like if they've had mistakes made?
If they have been abused, it is much more difficult to get them past it, to get them to ever trust a human again.
Mm-hmm. Do you think just because of that reasoning, like they can hold on to those things longer? Or?
Yeah, a mule never forgets training,
mm-hmm.
good or bad.
Yeah, yeah.
They never forget it. I've turned a mare out for 3 years one time. Caught her up, did a little groundwork with her, put a saddle on her, stepped up on her. She rode off like she'd been ridden every day that week.
Mm-hmm.
They never forget anything.
Yeah.
Good or bad. When people say they've taken their mule to a trainer, my first question is that a horse trainer or is that a mule trainer?
Mm-hmm.
Because evidently there are techniques that are used training horses that ruin mules. I've seen too many of them.
Yeah.
That have,
my guess is they probably ruin the horses too. But
well, I mean, well, I mean the horse is probably usable, but he's certainly not to the extent that he was once capable of being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so unnecessary.
Yeah. Yeah, I think everything you're saying like lines up. I mean, like it's wonderful.
One other thing about the groundwork.
Yeah.
I can teach a mule that has never experienced anything to do with the type of groundwork that I teach. I can teach them to do the groundwork pretty much perfectly in about 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It takes me at the bare minimum a half a day, sometimes quite a bit longer, to get a human fairly proficient doing the groundwork.
Yeah. Well, half a day is pretty good.
And it's primarily because we are mentally wired to think we need to lead that animal. Yeah. There's nothing in the halter driving groundwork that we do that involves leading. It all involves driving.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about the ground driving, that's the thing that popped into my head was, isn't it funny that we're talking about leadership, but we're driving to achieve leadership, and that is a mental challenge. Right.
Yep. Yeah. That's one of the hardest things for folks to get past is the fact that when we're working that animal, doing the halter driving, we are way back behind the drive line, pushing him, not pulling on his head.
Yeah.
We've got the lead rope in our hand, and the mule can run into our hand, mm-hmm. but we don't bend our elbow and pull on him. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough for a lot of folks.
Yeah. So what qualities do you feel like make a successful student?
Oh, the ability to listen and learn and ask the right questions.
Yeah.
And put your pride and dignity on the shelf. Because that mule will not put up with it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, Emily, if you haven't been around mule people, you wouldn't know this, but mule people are all down to earth, practical, unassuming, just good old everyday folks. Mm-hmm. I mean, every one of them. When I'm traveling, which isn't much, but I do some. When I'm traveling, I'll make it known where I'm going to be that evening, and I'll have offers to come stay with folks.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And I never hesitate.
Yeah,
because I know the kind of folks that are going to be there.
Yeah, that's
I may
so
not
cool.
know them, but I know it because they've got an interest in the mule. Mm-hmm. You know, in 2015, I participated in a colt starting competition out in Truth or Consequences, New Mexico. Mm-hmm. All right, there was 4 trainers in a rodeo arena and 4 round pens. And we all had mule colts we were working with, and the rules said we had to give the colts a 15-minute break. I think it was every hour and a half. And during that break, the MC would come around and ask us questions. And it come time for my mule's break, and the MC came around and asked me, why in the world did I get into mules? And I looked at him and I told him, I got into mules because mules screen out all the people that I don't want to have to deal with. If you don't find something attractive, alluring, special about a mule, then yeah,
probably not going to get along.
No.
Yeah, good answer.
It's just, they're just down to earth, everyday folks. Don't assume anything. They don't run around with their nose in the air. There's none of that. Yeah. Because the mule won't put up with it.
Yeah.
He just won't.
Yeah.
The mule is the best screen there ever was.
I love that.
Yeah.
I went to it was the neighbor that has donkeys. She and I went to a donkey rescue and did some groundwork with the donkeys.
Right.
And I just remember feeling like this is it might have the common roots of a language that I know, but there's a lot that I caught myself like, I can't do that with this animal, like I have to really be creative in thinking about my approach, because they were not going to put up with it. Like you said, they're not going to put up with anything. No. So cool. Tell me what you've got planned for Midwest Horse Fair.
Well, they've got me down for 3 clinics and 3 or 4 lectures, I believe. Cool. We're going to talk about I'm a big proponent of the Myler combination bit for mules. I believe that's the best tool going to communicate with the mule. We here at GMT, Garrison Mulemanship Training, had developed what we call the 5 pillars of mulemanship. And those are confidence, competence, empathy, trust, and leadership. And that list is not in order of importance. But you can expound on each one of those quite a bit, and give folks a pretty good overall general way of being that you need to have going on before you can successfully interact with the mule.
Cool. Well, those sound like great clinics to check out. I'm looking forward to going for the first time this year, so that'll be fun. You mentioned that you don't do a ton of traveling, but are the mules that you like, are there mules across the country? Are they mostly in the West, or everywhere? Yeah.
No, they're everywhere. I've been everywhere from Idaho to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And had plenty mules everywhere.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, they come out of the woodwork. you can't see many of them from the highway, but they're out there.
Yeah, far off the beaten path.
Right.
Well, cool. Well, I have a feeling that you and I could visit all day, but is there anything that when you were thinking about us chatting that you thought I might ask about that I haven't asked about? I always,
no, not really.
Nope.
No, I would mention this, just talking about the difference in training a horse and a mule. A lot of horse training is done through repetition. Repetition is not your friend training a mule.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to get a mule to do something the second time, or get him to do better at what you're trying to get him to do, is to quit whenever he makes a big improvement or whenever he completes the task. Quit and go do something else. Don't go back and do it again and again and again.
Yeah.
Repetition is not your friend training a mule.
Okay, good to know.
That's a pretty good general tip to keep in your back pocket.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep.
Well, I think I'm excited to come watch you work in person, and
oh, good, yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't really had the opportunity to be around mules, but they sure seem interesting, and so I might be one of those folks who has to come down and check them out.
Yep. Well, there's one thing about a mule is you never want to underestimate the mule's athletic abilities.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was watching the tire obstacle course, and I was like,
that's exactly
goodness.
what I was referring to, Emily.
Yeah, wow, it is impressive that some of those jumps are wow.
Yeah, and you see, they can see all 4 feet.
Wow.
That's why they're so sure-footed.
Yeah.
Yeah. They don't hard. I can't say they don't ever, but it's as close as don't ever as you can get to ever taking a bad step.
Mm-hmm.
They just don't do it.
Yeah.
They are truly sure-footed.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that I'll put the link to your YouTube channel down below so folks can go check that out, because those tire courses are impressive, and they just do their job. Yeah, pretty cool. I would be more worried about me staying in the saddle than their sure-footedness.
Yeah, no, it's not hard to stay in the saddle. But yeah, they're a thinking animal.
Yeah.
They're thinking all the time, and you've got to realize that, and you've got to stay just ahead of them.
Yeah. And tell me, do you feel like the interest in mules is growing?
Yeah, big time. And so and the price reflects that. Mm-hmm. The price per head, the average price is on mules is gone up considerably in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm. Could you hazard a guess as to why? What is it that?
Well, yeah, the mule, physically speaking, the mule is narrower set in their shoulders. Mm-hmm. So they're much more comfortable to ride. Mm-hmm. They have a much more comfortable way of going. They have a quicker way of going. Most mules will outwalk by a considerable amount most horses. Mm-hmm. They'll just flat out walk them. Yeah. Gaitered or not, it doesn't matter. They are more water efficient. Mm-hmm. Go on a trail ride on a hot summer day with mules and horses, and observe the amount of sweat on each.
Yeah.
The mules are much more conservative with their water. Mules are much easier to feed. They don't, because of the donkey heritage and the donkey evolved on the earth, they have a much more efficient digestive system, and the mule gets that.
Yeah.
Most folks' behavioral issues with the mule comes down to overfeeding that sucker. They're giving him a pile of alfalfa like that, and of course he's going to be a cocaine addict the next day. But because he can't stand all that energy.
Yeah.
Mules do great on grass hay only.
Yeah.
No supplements, no grass hay only. They'll do wonderful. Now, if you're riding them hard and working them hard, they need a little extra then. But now their efficiency, most mules don't need to be shod.
Mm-hmm.
If you happen to be riding them hard for multiple days and they get a little tender, just take along a pair of boots that fits them and put the boots on the front end.
Yeah,
they'll go forever. You never have to do anything to the back end on a mule. Ever.
All right. Well, my ears are definitely perked up.
Yeah, the only time the vet sees my mules is for Coggins.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Just a little more resilient.
Well, the hybrid vigor.
Yeah.
They've got when you cross two like species, the offspring has what's referred to as hybrid vigor. Mules will typically be larger than either parent. The mule offspring will be larger typically than either parent.
Wow.
They'll oh geez.
Cool.
The list is long.
Yeah. Well, are you bringing your mules to Wisconsin?
I'm going to fly. It's
okay.
It's too far.
It's a long ways.
It's too far to drive up there. They'll have a mule for me there to demonstrate on and use.
Okay.
But no.
Well, so I'll have to come to Texas if I want to meet your mule.
That's right. I'll put you on a mule if you come down here.
All right. Okay. Let's do it. It sure sounds fun. All right. Well, if there's anything else that we can think of to visit about, but this has been fun, and I think it was a great introduction.
You bet.
All right. Well, thanks for taking the time, and
Absolutely, Emily. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. You too.
Thanks. Bye.